I don't want to get the same diseases my parents had. I'm going to do everything I can to take care of myself and look at prevention. I think the next generation tends to look that way. I became an advocate for genomic sequencing way back when I was diagnosed with multiple myeloma and realized I needed to know a little bit more about my disease and the subtype that I had.
Cancer had already been part of Kathy Giusti's family history. Her maternal grandfather had multiple myeloma, and her paternal grandmother had breast cancer. When Miss Giusti's twin sister was diagnosed with breast cancer, she felt it was time to get a more detailed picture of the potential medical risks that ran in the family. Kathy decided to look into gene sequencing. Whole genome sequencing, which maps out someone's complete DNA, and whole exome sequencing, which examines an important section of it, are ways to dig into one's genetic makeup. Sequencing can provide clues that might indicate a predisposition to a disease, anything from cancer to heart disease to Alzheimer's disease and other much rarer illnesses.
We have the possibility of leading an entirely new era of medicine.
So sequencing is all over the place these days. People are talking about it, companies are starting, medical advances are happening, rare diseases are being diagnosed. But germline sequencing, the sequencing of every cell in a regular person's body, is actually only half the battle.
The other half is interpreting the data. Since the field is rapidly evolving, scientists can't always determine whether a genetic variation is meaningful or what they consider a false clue.
For example, you can have a variation in a disease-associated gene that no one's ever seen before. At that point, you have to make a judgment call about whether that variation or that mutation is sufficiently bad that it actually means something for the patient in front of you. Sometimes that's very hard.
When Ms. Giusti reached out to her extended family members to encourage them to undergo whole exome sequencing, it raised a lot of questions. What would they find out? Should they share what they find out with family members who didn't want to participate?
I think there are certain family members that may have more reservations about finding something out, but from my standpoint, I think there's really no reason not to participate, and certainly I plan on doing it.
Ms. Giusti's twin sister has said she will get sequenced at a later time if researchers think more information would be helpful.
What's really fascinating about identical twins is when I decide to go through the process, I would be getting that information back. Whether my twin sister wanted to go through the process or not, I would know the information on both of us.
Genomics is not something you can do completely in isolation. If I'm carrying a mutation, each of my children knows that they have a 50-50 chance of carrying that mutation. And so when you share information about yourself, you're also sharing information about other people.
This can create complicated situations within families and for the healthcare professionals involved. Specially trained counselors can help guide patients through genetic testing and genome sequencing and what to do with the information once they have it.
Most genetic counselors will take on a problem-solving approach in terms of, okay, what can we do to help facilitate any type of conversation? Whether it be us giving them a very general letter that they could mail to their family member, or using another relative in the family to be the go-between.
One of the issues people may struggle with regarding gene sequencing is privacy.
I'd say the biggest issue that people are concerned about is whether the information that's in their genome could be used against them by insurance companies to deny them some type of insurance or to increase their insurance rates.
A federal law passed in 2008 makes it illegal for health insurance companies and employers to discriminate based on health results, but it doesn't protect against life insurance or long-term care insurance discrimination at a federal level.
If sequencing and its biological exponents become more a daily part of life and a daily part of medical care, we're going to have to get better at protecting privacy.
Ms. Giusti's desire to map out the risks that her children and other family members may face has other implications, including unanticipated findings.
I think the only thing that might be more disconcerting is finding out that there's something neurological that I wouldn't have anticipated, and realizing that I might be living a life with both cancer and neurological disorders.
And that's been a huge issue on people's minds. It's the incidental finding issue. It's not the gene you were looking for, it's secondary or an incidental finding. What do you do in that situation? Do you tell the patient? Does the patient want to know? Do they have a right to tell you they don't want to know it?
Miss Giusti's daughter, Nicole, decided she doesn't want to know at this point in her life.
I work out all the time, I eat healthy, I don't smoke, I don't go into tanning bed, so there's really nothing in my life that I would be able to change without something like drastic or significant like a surgery, and at 21 years old that's just not something that I'm willing to consider. So since getting my genome tested wouldn't lead to any changes I could make, I decided not to do it.
Some members of the medical community are unsure whether healthy young people like Nicole Giusti should undergo testing at all.
There's certainly a powerful narrative to suggest that it might be helpful. But you know, we're not sure really yet whether all the clues to future disease that you can uncover in a sequence are real clues or false clues. We're not really sure yet whether the money you would spend chasing those clues and the medical tests you would get, and possibly even the surgeries you might get chasing those clues, would actually make you healthier in the long run. I think we will find that it will, but that is actually an empirical question that we're trying to test in our research, and so are others.
Kathy's son David decided the testing might help him in the long run.
I feel like there's ways that you could prevent certain things from happening if you knew that they're going to happen later on in your life. It might not happen at all, so it's definitely something that would be in the back of my mind.
Miss Giusti hopes that over the long term, having this information will help her family with disease prevention and in seeking treatments should the need arise.
As a mom with a daughter and a son, I care deeply about the predisposition they might have to cancers as well.
Other family members may opt in later. For now, Kathy Giusti and her mother are having their whole exome sequencing done at the Mayo Clinic.
I have had over 5 different family members with 5 different types of cancer, so I believe that at some point in my life I will have cancer. I just don't want to know right now like what the specifics of that are going to be because I'm young and I'd rather not worry about it right now.